You better be listening up. You better be watching. Stop what you're doing. Put down the popcorn. Turn off Netflix. Turn off Hulu. Stop watching Smallville. Listen up very good. Because you know we're going to be talking about throughout this hour. Part of our safety break special, it's something we all feel the most. Think about it. You're driving. Or if you're driving or standing at the corner, you see somebody walk in the middle of the street without using a damn crosswalk. If you got no idea what I'm talking about, this will help explain.
No jaywalking. What's that?
Now, what is jaywalking? Well, the actual definition of jaywalking, or jaywalk, it's not funny, is cross or walk in a street or road unlawfully or without regard for approaching traffic. And where does it come from? Watch Law by Mike.
Hold up, you're about to break the law.
Oh, Mike, how?
Oh God, you're jaywalking. You're about to get a ticket.
Okay, why is it called jaywalking?
Jay used to mean a big dummy.
My name's Jay. Oh, man.
That's why you never jaywalk. There's a thing that we all use. You know what it's called? It's called a crosswalk. It's a button you push. You push a button or you wave. As a matter of fact, from our common sense perspective, take a look at, let's rewatch the video as part of our safety break to give y'all some common sense. Watch. Alright, here it is. The button's pushed. The light's green. There's the stop sign on the intersection of Waldron and SPID. In just a few minutes, it's going to turn red, and you will see the walk sign. I'm pointing this out to y'all because there needs to be common sense being raised here. Okay, there's the yellow. Let me zoom in here. There's a few minutes. There it is. There's that walk sign right there. See my finger? There it is. 16 seconds. That gives you 16 seconds to walk from here down to there. Or to walk from there to here. Once it stops, that turns red there, and that turns green. Now, what's the point of doing this? Common sense. Because we've lost common sense when it comes to traffic safety. I'll see you tonight. Common sense alert.
Huge portion of what I do here on YouTube is all about researching, writing my videos, emailing people that I work with, and that means my message has to be on point.
You push a button. You wait for it to say walk. And when the walk sign is on, that indicates that you have several seconds to walk. Now, that video was posted right after an accident happened on Waldron and SPID. I'm not going to get into too much details. This is between me and me. So, y'all don't get a vote. The danger of jaywalking is this. There are laws that say you cannot jaywalk. The legal The legal definition is jaywalking is when someone illegally crosses the street. Generally, pedestrians must use designated crosswalks and walk signals that indicate when they may or may not cross. Pedestrians who cross the street without using the crosswalk or who do not actively follow the signals is cited for jaywalking. There are laws. They talk about jaywalking. Let's look here in Texas because I see Texans all the time jaywalking. Jaywalking is most definitely illegal in Texas, and the state has strict laws to keep pedestrians safe on busy roads. The law in Texas is that the pedestrian always has the right of way only when crossing a pedestrian crossing. They do not have the right of way or any other point, and the law is strictly implemented in Texas to keep everybody safe. So, that's one of the states that has illegal jaywalking laws. Come up next, we're going to be looking into more states that have these jaywalking laws and what you can do to prevent jaywalking, to prevent yourself from not jaywalking. You could probably be ticketed, or you could probably end up in jail. Stay with us. Welcome back to our safety break special all about jaywalking. Jaywalking is a term to when people cross the street illegally without using a crosswalk. That's where it comes from. In the state of Texas, it is illegal. But let's look at some other states that have laws about jaywalking. Pedestrian crosswalk laws in all 50 states. In every state, you are required to use a crosswalk. A button you push that indicates whether it's time to walk or not. If the sign says stop, it's not okay for you to walk. If the sign says it's okay for you to walk, it's okay for you to walk. That means you can possibly do this. I mean, the National Transportation Safety Board study reveals that 2016, almost 6,000 pedestrians were killed on U.S. roads, an average of 16 per day. The worst states were New Mexico, Florida, South Carolina, New Mexico, Florida, South Carolina, Delaware, Arizona, Nevada, Louisiana, Texas, Alabama, and Georgia. Interestingly, 9 of the 10 worst states are located in the South. It is impossible to effectively handle personal injury workers' compensation subrogation claims without being familiar with the months of proliferating laws which govern the liability of motorists and the duties of pedestrians when crossing the street. So, these states have laws. In Alabama, they're jaywalking laws. Pedestrian crossing other than within a marked crosswalk or within an unmarked crosswalk shall yield the right of way to all vehicles. No pedestrian shall cross a roadway intersection dynamically unless authorized by official traffic control devices. If traffic control signals are in operation, all pedestrians must walk. In Alaska, there are no laws. In Arizona, they have pedestrian laws. They have jaywalking laws. So does Arkansas, California, Colorado, Delaware, District of Columbia, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, Minnesota, Montana, Nebraska, New Hampshire, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Rhode Island, Tennessee, South Dakota, Texas. The Transportation Code is Section 552.005. Pedestrians must yield their vehicles when crossing outside the crosswalk. Pedestrians must use crosswalk intersections with traffic control devices. Those people who did not use a crosswalk, who are jaywalking, they're violating Section 552.005 of the Transportation Code. Utah, Vermont, Virginia, Washington, Wyoming, Wisconsin, West Virginia. If you want to read all the state laws, you may visit our newsletter at givemeabreak.substack.com. You'll also find more tips, which I'm going to tell you about right now, on how to prevent jaywalking from happening, and educate your kids on how to prevent this from happening again, because jaywalking is illegal here in the state of Texas. What about being arrested for jaywalking? You can be ticketed. Can you really be arrested for jaywalking? Well, according to one body cam footage, this happened 2 years ago. An outrage over teens jaywalking led to an arrest. Take a look at this. Take a look at this news footage.
Other news, the investigation in Tulsa tonight, the disturbing police confrontation, newly released body camera video showing 2 white officers stopping 2 black teenagers for jaywalking. ABC's Marcus Moore in Tulsa tonight with what happened next.
Call my mama. Call my mama.
Tonight, Tulsa's mayor and the local police are investigating this incident involving 2 teenagers. Dramatic body camera footage shows the officers approached the teens just last week as they were walking down a neighborhood street. One officer grabs one of the teens by the arms.
What's wrong? What do you want? Man, you ain't got nothing on me. What you trying to say? Just relax. What are you doing? What you guys doing? Why are you trying to choke it? Why are you trying to choke his neck, man? Nobody's choking him.
Within the span of a minute, the teen is on the ground and in handcuffs.
Why are you putting handcuffs on him?
Because
Why are you putting handcuffs on my
Well, all he
was doing was jaywalking. We just want to talk with him.
one of the teens was arrested and issued a citation. Tonight, his attorney says it never should have happened.
The thing about this that is disheartening, particularly in this time where police violence and brutality is everywhere, you would think that Tulsa police wouldn't do something like this at this time. But the reality is this is the culture of the Tulsa Police Department.
David, we saw the street firsthand tonight. It does not appear to be heavily traveled, and there are no sidewalks. Tonight, Tulsa police tell us the teen who was arrested for jaywalking, assaulting a police officer, and obstruction. David.
Marcus Moore tonight. Marcus, thanks.
Well, who was in the wrong here? The person who jaywalked. That's who was in the wrong here. So that person should have used a crosswalk or stayed within the sidewalk. Same thing for bicyclists. If you're riding a bicycle, you need to learn how to you need to ride along the sidewalk. I've seen people who ride bikes on the street. That is a big no-no. That's another video. We'll talk about that in another safety break. Bicycle on the road? Give me a break here. You don't do that. You ride on the sidewalk. Half the time you ride on the sidewalk, there's sticker birds along the grass area. Now, there was this video, five years ago, there was a video of a Florida officer who was threatening a man for jaywalking. Take a look.
Story we're following this morning, a sheriff's officer was caught on video threatening to take a man to jail after jaywalking in Florida. Devontae Shipman started recording on his cell phone shortly after the Jacksonville officer stopped him last week. Community activists believe it happened because Shipman was, quote, walking while black. An internal sheriff's department review is underway. David Begnaud is in Jacksonville, where he spoke to the 21-year-old. David, good morning.
Good morning. This is the crosswalk in question. Devontae Shipman insists he was walking between the lines where it was legal. But the officer says Devontae didn't have the right of way because the indicator wasn't blinking in his favor. The officer never cursed at Devontae, never put his hands on him, and didn't take him to jail. But in the video, the officer is verbally forceful. And Devontae wonders why such verbal force for a minor infraction.
What was it that we did wrong, officer?
The video begins with the officer sternly telling Devontae Shipman and his friend why he stopped them.
One, you weren't in the crosswalk. Two, there was a red sign.
Moments later, Officer J.S. Boland threatens to arrest both of them if they don't walk over to his patrol car.
I'm about to put you in jail.
For what?
Disobeying a direct order.
That's not disobeying a direct
Resisting
order.
without
That's not
walking my
resisting.
car.
That is not resisting, officer. That is not resisting,
Listen to
officer.
me. I am doing you a favor. I'm not telling you again.
Were you inside of these crosswalk lines?
Yes, I was just like this.
Shipman admits he never saw whether the crosswalk light indicated he could cross legally.
There was 2 cars that were coming through the intersection that had to slow down. They had the right of way, not you.
What made you want to video it?
We got police shootings and killings from officers in black communities, and that's just why I feel like it was on my end how I feel like I needed to be safe to record it.
Do you feel like this happened because you were black?
Not entirely. I just feel like it happened because I was just singled out.
Since February, the Jacksonville sheriff has been using state grant money to target jaywalking on 4 specific streets. It's part of an effort to reduce traffic deaths. Shipman was ticketed about a mile from one of those streets. He was also cited for not having his driver's license.
In the state of Florida, you have to have an ID card on you identifying who you are.
But that's not what Florida law says. According to the statute used by the officer to ticket Devontae, it applies to drivers, not pedestrians. Attorney Michael Gottlieb, who has defended police in court, says Officer Boland was overzealous, but he also thinks Shipman's cell phone and his attitude added to the tension.
You're already videoing it. We can see the officer's attitude. Take it to court. Show the judge the right thing will happen in court.
Officer Boland never mentions Devontae's race in the video. We called Officer Boland to get his side of the story, but he hasn't called us back as of this morning. David, Devontae plans to contest his $198 tickets in court, and in the video you actually hear the officer say, quote, "I really hope you take that option, because I promise you, I will be there."
David, thanks.
Well, we can see he threatened to take him to jail, but you can be ticketed for jaywalking in most states. But as body cam footage would show, sometimes it can lead to disaster. Stay with us. Welcome back to Jaywalking 101. Tonight, a safety break special all about jaywalking, what you need to know the next time you're thinking about crossing the street or on a curbside, which is also jaywalking. Now, so far, we've seen one person who was threatened to be arrested for jaywalking. Actually, it wasn't that. It was because of walking while black. That is racist. Really racist. A white officer arrested a black man for walking. That is racist. But take a look at this. But now you're about to see something that happened 2 years ago. Actually, it was 4 years ago. 4 years ago, a body cam footage showed of a man who was jaywalking, and he was being tasered because of jaywalking, when he should have gotten a ticket to where he lived. Take a look at this.
Now at 11, Gwinnett County Police, 2 officers, and the county sued for $10 million.
That's right. So this lawsuit was actually filed on Monday. It comes 18 months after the officer used a taser 3 times on a Stone Mountain man during a jaywalking arrest.
Do anything. All right, he's getting tased again. I can't do anything.
So officers approached the man twice for crossing the street outside a crosswalk. 11 Live's Hope Forward walks us through the lawsuit and where the body camera video picks up from there.
2 officers drive up to John Eford walking across Holcomb Bridge Road in March of last year. Both get out of their vehicles, tasers in hand. Body camera audio starts 30 seconds into the video.
No crosswalk right there.
Eford continues to ask what he did before officers order him to the ground, saying they'll tase him. Officers used a taser on Eford 3 times before he was handcuffed.
He has not told me anything, sir. He jaywalked again, right in front of us again, bro.
Jackie Patterson, Eford's attorney, says his client is traumatized. The charges against Eford, jaywalking and 2 counts of misdemeanor obstruction, were dropped in November.
When the solicitor's office reviewed the video and saw that my client committed no crime, they dropped all charges.
Patterson believes the force used to arrest Eford was unwarranted for something that could have been a ticket.
My client was in a fetal position saying, "Please don't shoot me."
Gwinnett County Police say one of the officers involved, Charles Bynum, later resigned from the department while under investigation for a separate incident. 1 month before this arrest, Bynum was arrested for false imprisonment, making terroristic threats, and battery of his domestic partner. In the police report, officers read the victim had a recording of Bynum saying, "They're on my team," when the the victim threatened to call police. Patterson said in relation to his client, he hopes the lawsuit serves the purpose of preventing future misdemeanor crimes from taking a turn.
Simply because you wear a badge and a gun, that doesn't give you the right to use excessive force on anyone.
So a spokesperson for the Gwinnett County Police Department confirmed the second officer involved in the arrest is still employed with the department. The department also says it cannot comment on active lawsuits.
Okay. So our common sense inspector would explain this. So, common sense alert. Well, he jaywalked and the police tasered him. What they should have done was issued a ticket. Issued a citation and say, hey, you jaywalked, I'm giving you a ticket. Take a look at this man. He was jailed after jaywalking.
After jaywalking.
Tonight we are bringing you the story of a Detroit man who had never been in trouble with the law but found himself facing time in prison.
He says police lied to cover up their own mistake. 7 investigator Rush Jones tells us how the whole mess ended up costing city taxpayers.
This was a time where, Eric Gardner just happened, Sandra Bland just took place. I was scratching with another face on the shirt.
Steele Hughes never had trouble with police until a night 2 years ago. He was leaving dinner in Greektown with his fiancée.
I was crossing here. We were getting ready to walk over to this parking structure right here.
Hughes did what our cameras saw lots of people do in Greektown. He jaywalked, cutting across Monroe Street when he said traffic was clear. Cops in Detroit seldom give out tickets for jaywalking, but Hughes was about to get one.
An officer made a call, get out of the street. It was a mistake. I shouldn't have jaywalked. I could acknowledge that.
He finished crossing the street, but said the officers weren't finished with him.
Next thing I know, was a hand grabs my shoulder, and then my wrist, and then I'm thrown to the ground.
Surveillance video captured the melee, which escalated quickly. Passers-by pulled out their cell phones, recording Hughes on his back. In front of his fiancée, officers cuffed him, then put him in the squad car and brought him to jail. The charges, disorderly conduct and obstructing police. His arrest was posted to YouTube.
And all of a sudden, I was this young male that was being arrested online.
But what police said to justify Hughes' arrest is what disturbs him the most. Said one officer, Hughes shrugged violently away, then swore at the officers, a charge he denies. Another said he took an aggressive posture, that he was blading his body, leaving the officer to grab his left hand before he could launch an attack.
I would have no reason to attack 3 armed officers in downtown Detroit after a date night.
Were you armed with anything?
Not at all. I had a carryout. I had some crawfish and rice.
And as for how Hughes ended up on his back, that wasn't the officer's fault, they said. Hughes lost his balance and fell to the ground.
It has all the appearance of a takedown.
We showed the video to Reginald Crawford, a retired Detroit police officer who spent years on the city's Board of Police Commissioners. What officers said and what the video showed, he said doesn't match.
Does it look like he's about to launch an attack? No, he doesn't. That doesn't. It doesn't have the appearance of that.
They began to manufacture their statements in order to justify and support their actions.
Herbert Sanders is Hughes' attorney.
It's scary to think what might have happened if there wasn't video. This could have escalated and he could be dead.
After the arrest, Hughes sat in a Detroit jail, and not just for a few hours.
I was given an orange jumpsuit, had a mugshot taken, and I was put in a cell with felons. I sat there, slept there, and used the bathroom there for 3 days.
After 72 hours behind bars, he was released, only to learn he'd been suspended from his job for 2 weeks, pending his criminal case. It wasn't long after that the Wayne County prosecutor decided there wasn't one.
Ken Worthy turned down their warrant. I was not charged with anything.
Once the case against him fell apart, Hughes sued the Detroit Police Department. And last month, the city settled, costing taxpayers $45,000. What it costs Steele Hughes, he says, is more than money.
If I see cops, 2 hands on the steering wheel, it changes the way I move. You shouldn't have to be guarded or fearful of an officer. Their job is to serve and protect, not to strike fear in anybody.
None of the officers in this case were disciplined for their conduct, but a supervisor would later say that police should not have grabbed Hughes in the first place and should have instead used verbal commands. We should add Hughes' ticket for jaywalking. It was dismissed. I'm Ross Jones, 7 Action News.
And like it happened. First he was arrested, then the charges were dropped, and then the ticket was dismissed. You have to be you need to be ticketed for jaywalking. You can't just throw somebody in jail because of a jaywalker. Oh, you jaywalked? You're under arrest for jaywalking. But jaywalking is really illegal here in all states. And there are videos. There are really some videos, compilations about people who are jaywalking. Let's hear from some experts that ask, should jaywalking be legal? Take a look. But really, the question is, should jaywalking be legal? When really it's all about safety. We'll answer the question when we come back. Stay with us. It's Jaywalking 101 here on Safety Break. We are talking about jaywalking, and the question is, should jaywalking be legal when it's all about safety? In every state that we looked at, like in Texas, Washington, D.C., it is illegal to jaywalk. And in cases that we heard, people have gotten arrested and been tased and getting ticketed and thrown in jail for jaywalking. People have sued, and many people have not. That's what leads to the question, should jaywalking be legal? Every state that we talked about is illegal. Texas, Delaware, they have jaywalking laws. Wisconsin, when not across, pedestrians must yield right of way to vehicles. In Wyoming, the statute says pedestrians must yield to vehicles when crossing outside crosswalk. Pedestrians must use crosswalk at intersections with traffic control devices. Pedestrians may not cross diagonally. That's jaywalking. But the question is, should jaywalking be legal? Take a look.
Hi there. You just caught me breaking the law. I'm crossing mid-block or jaywalking. Specifically, I'm breaking California Vehicle Code 21955, which states, between adjacent intersections controlled by traffic control signal devices or by police officers, pedestrians shall not cross the roadway at any place except in a crosswalk. So how serious is my crime? Is it a felony? A misdemeanor? Actually, in California, it's an infraction. I could be fined up to $196. It's a punishment so small and it's enforced so infrequently that most people don't think twice about stepping off the curb mid-block. The infraction may be minor, but it has caused major damage to our cities and continues to do so today. Jaywalking was a term in law invented by automobile interests 100 years ago to clear the streets of pedestrians and cement the dominance of the automobile on our roadways. Today, jaywalking is sometimes used as a pretense for racial profiling and unjust policing. Each of these is reason enough to get rid of jaywalking entirely, and this video is an argument for doing just that. It's common to assume that jaywalking is against the law to protect pedestrians. It's a way of discouraging them from running out into traffic and getting hit by a car. But that's not why jaywalking was devised back in the 1910s and 1920s. Streets back then weren't well organized and didn't have features like crosswalks, turn lanes, and traffic signals. You had streetcars, horses, pedestrians, and the new kids on the block, the automobile, all mixing on increasingly crowded streets. The biggest conflicts were between pedestrians and drivers, and the results were often deadly. Pedestrians, including children, were being struck and killed by cars. In those early days, motorists were held responsible and the public was horrified by all of the deaths. You have to remember that in cities, kids played in the street. People couldn't comprehend the idea that you'd have to keep kids off of the streets all day long to keep them safe. Everyone realized that speed was the real problem. Cars could go fast, faster than the flow of traffic in 1920s cities. Some cities wanted to do something about it, something more than just speed limits. They wanted to mandate speed governors on all cars to ensure they couldn't go more than, say, 20 or 30 miles per hour within city limits. It was at this point that the auto industry realized they needed to fight for the right to own the street. Speed governors would cripple the small but growing industry. Automobile interests organized a massive resistance campaign to speed governors in the first ever referendum on one in Cincinnati. They killed it before the idea could gain traction. The win emboldened the industry, and they set their sights on eliminating the biggest opposition, pedestrians. Thus began the campaign to stigmatize pedestrians in the street. The auto lobby realized they needed to define the terms of the battle, literally. Pedestrians had long called motorists joyriders and speed maniacs. So the auto lobby came up with the term jaywalkers. Why jaywalkers? Well, they just invented it. A jay was someone from the country, a rube. So the implication was that jaywalkers didn't know how to walk properly in a city. The auto industry also pushed the modernity angle. Cars were the future, and jaywalkers were just backward hicks who stood in the way of progress. Pedestrians had sidewalks, cars had the street. Motorists rolled out the jaywalking campaign using a mix of shaming and education. They hosted safety parades, and in one in New York in 1924, they had a clown playing a jaywalker get hit repeatedly by a Model T. Education was the biggest push, though. They had safety campaigns, slogans, and posters. They enlisted the Boy Scouts to hand out flyers to jaywalkers. Pedestrian activists, playing dirty, intentionally crossed mid-block to collect all of the Boy Scouts' flyers. Seriously. Automobile lobbyists doubled down on the shame game. They convinced police to aggressively whistle at mid-block crossers, to call them out and embarrass them in front of people on the sidewalk. People on the sidewalk. They found this technique to be more effective than fines. By 1924, the term jaywalker had found its way into dictionaries, and millions were familiar with the term. The motorists had largely won hearts and minds by this point. The automobile interests had successfully convinced the public that streets were for cars, and those who dared to cross mid-block or against the signal were scofflaws and hicks. The shame campaigns eventually evolved into the anti-jaywalking laws we know today. And while it may seem like a law that's rarely enforced, that's actually not the case. For example, the city of Seattle ticketed 500,000 jaywalkers between the 1930s and the 1980s. That's about 130 tickets per day for 50 years or so. In the 1980s, Seattle began to reduce the number of tickets given for jaywalking, and other cities have done the same since then. In New York City, police only gave 397 tickets for illegal or unsafe crossing in all of 2019. This reduction in tickets is a good thing, but there is still a problem. Police write tickets disproportionately to minority pedestrians. Of those tickets given out in New York last year, 90% were given to Black and Hispanic pedestrians. Now, there may be some of you thinking that perhaps Black and Hispanic pedestrians are more likely to cross mid-block or against the signal for some reason. I can tell you with experience, as can all New Yorkers, that people of every race and background will cross before the walk sign turns on or cross mid-block if there are no cars coming. There is a bias in policing on jaywalking. And unfortunately, when you have racial bias in policing, the situation can escalate. In one case in Tulsa, police stopped 2 Black teens who were walking in the middle of a deserted residential street. They were walking in the street because there were no sidewalks. The officers grabbed one of the teens from behind, forced him to the ground, and handcuffed him for jaywalking. That's just a mild example. In Sacramento, a Black man was beaten by police for jaywalking. In Asheville, North Carolina, a Black man was beaten by 2 officers, choked, and tasered for jaywalking. In 1997, a Black teen in West Covina, California, was shot and killed after police attempted to stop him for jaywalking. They said he was reaching for a gun. It turned out to be cookies and a Bible. And in case you think I'm taking sides or pulling things out of context, there are links in the description to more information about these cases. You can judge for yourself. In the Sacramento case, the police department itself said the officer went too far. So this isn't just my opinion here. And if you're concerned about pedestrian safety, Focus instead on truly vulnerable pedestrians, the elderly and children. They are far more likely to find themselves in the emergency room than jaywalkers, who are usually quite nimble and able to evade traffic. Support campaigns like 20 is Plenty to reduce car speeds in residential neighborhoods. If we eliminate jaywalking laws, we'll accomplish two things. First, we'll say that as a society, we put people above cars. We have an opportunity to stick it to the automobile lobby nearly 100 years after the fact. Second, and probably most importantly, we'll make streets safer for people of color by removing the possibility of a dangerous police interaction. When I'm not making City Beautiful videos, I'm teaching city planning to college students. I've no natural ability or formal training in video production, audio, social media, or anything like that.
But there's some common sense perspective. If you make jaywalking legal, everyone's going to want to play in the street, and everybody's going to want to start getting hit by cars. That's exactly what happened. I mean, take a look at these videos of people getting hit by cars. And the audio is muted because of music. So I'm going to describe it to you. One kid got hit. So this person got hit by a motorcycle. This woman was in a hurry, and so she stopped, and the car hit her. This woman was walking in the middle, and then boom, she got hit. Okay. This person walks, and then boom, she got hit. Driver walks away. Okay. This person right here, he's about to jaywalk. But when he does this, she runs, boom, she gets hit. As if to say, what the hell's going on? Okay, this person right here, he's about to walk. He runs, a motorcycle hits him, and the motorcycle tends to crash. How about this one? Right here. This person this kid. Boom. Ooh, shit. He gets hit. And this one right here, she raised out her hand while walking, and then a car hits her. Okay. This person runs, a motorcycle hits her, and the motorcycle goes down. The cyclist goes down. I was like, what happened here? This person right here, okay, he stops. That one's fake because he jumped into the car when his glasses were flying. Let's hope he doesn't realize that it's illegal to jaywalk. Now, from all those videos that you just see, these are probably all hit and run accidents from all these driver cam footages. But it's the case of people not using the crosswalk. If you don't use the crosswalk and you're crossing the curb, that is automatically jaywalking. And like we said before, it is illegal to jaywalk here in the state of Texas. These dash cam videos would show a lot. Okay, so there was a hit and run accident. It didn't have anything to do with jaywalking, so that's not what we're talking about here. I mean, and just 5 months ago, jaywalking tickets in California lost 2023. Take a look.
Well, now at 5:30, from jaywalking to job postings. A new year means new laws in California.
And our CBS 2's Juan Fernandez is breaking down a few of them for us, Juan.
That's right, Leslie and Jeff. Governor Newsom signed about 1,000 bills into law last year. Most of them are minor changes to already existing laws, but a few of them could impact our everyday lives. Here we go. One that's getting a lot of attention: no more tickets for jaywalkers. So people can now legally cross the street outside of a crosswalk unless they put themselves in immediate danger of getting hit by a car. And you may notice this, another new law the next time you go.
Stop right there. We're not watching the whole thing here. You cannot give out citations? Okay, putting themselves in danger? Okay. Boom! Boom! You go flying, you hit your head, you're down on the ground, you're in the hospital. Who's to blame? The driver who hit the car. No, it's the person that jaywalked and doesn't have the common sense perspective to understand you're not supposed to cross the middle of the freaking sidewalk. The middle of the freaking sidewalk. Common sense to tell you to use a crosswalk. You push a button, you wait for it to say walk, and there you go. Kids learn from this. But crossing a curb, that is jaywalking. And before jaywalking laws were appeared, a famous superhero decided to use the curb technique. We'll look at that when we return. Stay with us. Welcome back to Jaywalking 101. Before we tell you what you can do to avoid jaywalking, let's learn about curb safety, because that's also part of jaywalking when you're not using a crosswalk. When there's no crosswalk available. In the UK, there's probably not enough crosswalks. So, back in the 1960s, Adam West, who played Batman, used kids for public service announcement advertisement on TV. All in black and white. Let's take a look.
Hello, citizens. I'm taking a holiday from crime fighting in Gotham City. No rest from danger, though, because all around us is that deadly daily danger, traffic. I admire the way all you British children triumph over this danger by learning and using the road safety code, like curb drill. Before crossing the road, you stop at the curb, look right, look left, look right again, and then only if the road is clear, walk quickly across. Now, children, how does it go? At the curb, stop. Look right, look left, look right again. If all is clear, walk quickly across. Remember, be smart, be safe. Always do your curb drill.
And always know those curb drills, because curb drills, if you use them quickly, you probably won't be able to be cited for jaywalking if the police don't spot you. But do officers not know that jaywalking is illegal? Probably not, because there's not many police officers that do. But if you were to ask officers about jaywalking, they look at you dead in the face and say, we don't care. I may ask some police officers about this, and on future show, when we do another part 2 of our safety break jaywalk, we'll let you know. We'll let you know what happens. So how can you protect yourself from jaywalking? And if you see a jaywalker, what do you do? And how can you protect yourself from jaywalking next time it happens? And what do you do when you cross the street? When we come back, we'll tell you some safety tips. Stay with us. We are approaching the end of our Give Me a Break special, No Jaywalking, or Jaywalking 101, depending on one of the two, by asking a question. How do I protect myself from jaywalking next time I get a ticket? What do I do? To answer that first question, if you're being cited for jaywalking, you need to pay the ticket. I think if you refuse to pay the ticket, you probably could be arrested for not paying the ticket. So that answers the first question. The second question is, what do I do if I spot a jaywalker? This happened to me a lot. When I walk to the street, I see people crossing the middle of the curb. That is jaywalking. Do your best to mind your own business, or take the risk of taking pictures of the person jaywalking or video, send it to your local police station, and next time they find that person jaywalking, they'll issue a citation or a ticket saying you jaywalked. And they also have to pay it. That's question number 2. There are other tips which we're going to explain to you right now. Because jaywalking, there are safety tips about jaywalking. And like we talked about from the Batman advertisement, it's curb safety. Walking across the curb is jaywalking, so look right, look left, look right again, and only if the road is clear, you cross. ISO.mit.edu posted some tips about jaywalking. There are general safety rules that apply to anyone walking, driving, or riding the street. The first one is, think of yourself as invisible. Never assume that anyone can see you. Always try to make eye contact with motorists, cyclists, or pedestrian that you are approaching before you proceed. Always look both ways before crossing the street, even if it's a one-way street. And always cross at the corner. When I walk across the street, I always stop at a corner. When I walk across the street, I always stop, look, and listen. When I walk across the street, I cross quickly. If I'm crossing the curb, I walk quickly while looking left, right, and right, looking right, left, and right again. That's the pattern here for curb safety here. Now, how do we prevent this from happening again? The simplest common sense perspective is to always use a crosswalk. It's a simple device that the city spends a lot of money to keep you and me safe. And we teach and if your kids understand, we need to reteach adults and kids how to cross the street. Because a lot of times we see people not using the crosswalk, walk in the middle of the curb, and bam, they get hit by a car. And who's at fault here? The person who hit the car. Oftentimes, it's the jaywalker, it's the person who crossed the street's fault. During the traffic incident, it was at an intersection. Sometimes when these accidents happen, it's always at the intersection. At intersections, it's always the driver's fault, or sometimes the victim, or sometimes the walker is at fault here, because he didn't know. So for drivers out there, here's a tip for you. If you see a disabled person who's on a wheelchair crossing the street, stop. Wait for him to cross, and once he's done crossing, then you may turn. And more pedestrian safety tips could help save your life. Living.geico.com. Stay in the safe zones. Walk in the light. Stop strolling. And this is the big one. No texting while walking. Because you start going on while you're walking, it's already too late. You're already hit by a car. Like driving, focus on the sidewalk. Because cell phones are often the cause of these accidents from crossing the street. When people are using their cell phones, they're not paying attention from crossing the street. They're just sitting there on there watching their videos or doing whatever. So that must tell you that when you're about to cross the street, put the phone down. And once you're done crossing the street, then you can pick your phone back up. But by the time you're already talking about screen, it's already too late. You're already hit by a car. And a lot of characters, Sesame Street has found ways to learn how to cross the street. From Hootie and Blowfish, like Hold My Hand, which is the parody of the old hit, Hold My Hand. I would play it for you, but I'm not going to because I don't want to get copyrighted here. But this is for educational purposes, so I'm glad that we've had a great talk about curb safety here, jaywalking here, and what you need to do to make sure this doesn't happen again. So let's review. Every state has laws about jaywalking. Texas, from Transportation Code, has a law saying you cannot jaywalk. You can get ticketed or jailed for jaywalking. Half the time you could be ticketed, and half the time you could be jailed. Always use a crosswalk when you're crossing the street. Cross at a corner. And this is for every joggers out there who like to jog. It's the same thing. Use a crosswalk. And never, ever cross at a green light. When the light is green, that's for cars, not for people. And kids, you should always hold your mom and dad's hands when crossing the street. You never want to cross the street by yourself. Because that is a very important safety issue because the child can walk, but the car cannot see the child. So, gets hit, in the hospital, la-di-da-da, insurance papers, done. I hope these tips really help you. If you like more information and tips, we'll post some more on our Give Me a Break newsletter at givemeabreak.substack.com with additional safety information and tips to help you and your child stay safe when crossing the street, especially during the summertime when going to the pool. We'll be right back. Come up with Give Me a Break Saturday. Hurricane safety as part of our safety break. Hurricane insurance, hurricane preparation, and why evacuations are important from Katie Jeffries. We talked about hurricane season years ago in the show, but for safety purposes, it's hurricane safety, what you need to know beforehand the next time there's a hurricane. For advice and help from all the weather people. Dale Nelson, Stephanie L., Bill Alexander, Alan Holt, Krista Waller, and Carly Smith. The best weather team ever in South Texas. That's Give Me a Break for Friday going to Saturday. We'll see you again for a special Give Me a Break Saturday. For everyone here at YouTube, good night, everyone.